A tranquil town, a beloved community member, and an unfathomable crime that shattered the peace forever. Nestled in the heart of the country, our story begins in a small, idyllic town, a place where everyone knows each other by name and doors are left unlocked without a second thought. The kind of place where the notion of crime feels as distant as the city lights on the horizon. This town was home to a man we'll call John, a man who, for all intents and purposes, was the very embodiment of community spirit. He was a familiar face at local events, always ready with a warm smile and a helping hand. John was known for his generosity, his love for his town, and his kindness that touched everyone he met. He was a pillar of the community, a friend, a confidant, someone you could count on. In the heart of the community, an eerie silence loomed over the crime scene. The usual hustle and bustle, the lifeblood of the neighborhood, had been replaced by a chilling quiet. Everything appeared as if frozen in time, a tableau of everyday life interrupted by the macabre. The crime scene itself was a paradox, a contradiction of the violence that had occurred within its boundaries. An ordinary home nestled amidst others just like it. It was the kind of place where you'd expect to find warmth, laughter, and the comforting hum of a family living their lives. But not today. Today it was a canvas for a mystery that defied explanation. Inside, the investigators moved with a methodical precision, their faces etched with frustration, their minds wrestling with the enigma before them. The scene was surprisingly clean, almost sterile. Usually a crime of this magnitude would leave behind a trail of evidence, a breadcrumb path for the detectives to follow, but here there was nothing, no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, no DNA. It was as if the perpetrator had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the cruel echo of their deeds. The investigators, seasoned veterans of countless cases, found themselves baffled. They were used to piecing together puzzles, to sifting through chaos and finding order, but this was different. This was a blank canvas, a story waiting to be written. But by whom and why? The lack of evidence was alarming, yes, but it was also intriguing. It suggested a level of sophistication, a degree of planning that was unusual. It hinted at a criminal mind that was cunning and calculated, a mind that was perhaps one step ahead. As the day wore on, the investigators continued their meticulous search, hoping against hope to find something, anything, that would shed light on the darkness. And then, just when it seemed like all was lost, a glimmer of hope. A single piece of evidence, overlooked and unassuming, a lead that could potentially unravel this twisted tale. Yet, amidst the chaos, a single lead emerged, a beacon in the darkness. With a lead to chase, the investigators began their relentless pursuit of justice. A crumpled receipt, a name, a thread of hope in a tapestry of chaos. The initial lead, a name John Doe scribbled hastily on a diner's receipt, found at the scene of the crime. Not much to go on, but a start nonetheless. The investigators, a dedicated team of seasoned detectives, were no strangers to such challenges. They'd seen their fair share of dead ends and false leads. But this time, the stakes were higher, the pressure heavier. The community was in shock, the media was in a frenzy, and the clock was ticking. The first step, tracing the receipt back to its origins. The diner, a nondescript establishment on the edge of town, proved to be a treasure trove of information. The waitress remembered serving a man fitting John Doe's description on the night of the crime. A few regulars even corroborated her story, providing a rough sketch of the man's physical attributes and demeanor. But the lead wasn't as promising as it initially seemed. John Doe was a common alias, used by many who wanted to remain anonymous. It was like searching for a needle in a haystack. The investigators knocked on doors, interviewed potential witnesses, and sifted through mountains of data, hoping to find a connection, a clue that could bring them one step closer to the truth. Yet the more they dug, the more elusive the truth became. The lead, once a beacon of hope, was now a labyrinth of confusion. The trail led them in circles, and every new piece of information only added to the complexity of the case. The investigators were in a race against time, and they were losing. As days turned into weeks, the fervor of the initial investigation began to fade. The media moved on to the next big story, the town slowly returned to its daily routine, and the memory of the crime started to fade into the background. It was a chilling reminder of the harsh reality of such investigations. But as the trail grew cold, hope waned, and the case threatened to go cold. Just when it seemed the case was slipping away, a new piece of evidence surfaced. The investigation had been meandering, the leads drying up, the trail growing cold. But then, like a beacon in the dark, a glimmer of hope emerged. The investigators had been handed a lifeline, a vital piece of evidence that would reinvigorate the case. This new evidence was not just another clue. It was a potential game changer. It was a small, seemingly insignificant detail, overlooked in the initial stages of the investigation. A fingerprint, not matching any of the initial suspects found on the victim's personal belongings. This discovery would send shockwaves through the investigation and set a new course. The fingerprint was a paradoxical piece of evidence. It was both minute and monumental. Minute, because it was a tiny human trace, almost invisible to the naked eye. Monumental, because it could potentially identify the perpetrator. It was the kind of evidence that could turn a case on its head, and it did just that. The discovery of the fingerprint was not just a breakthrough, it was a seismic shift in the investigation. It was the moment the case took a sharp turn, veering away from the path it had been on. The investigators had been treading water, but now they were swimming with the current. The fingerprint was the compass that pointed them in a new direction. The investigators wasted no time. The fingerprint was sent to the lab for analysis, and they waited with bated breath. They knew this could be their best shot at solving the case. The fingerprint could either confirm their suspicions or shatter their theories. It was a moment of truth. The tension was palpable, the stakes were high, but the investigators were undeterred. They knew they had to follow this lead regardless of where it took them. They were determined to uncover the truth, to solve the case, to bring justice. And this new piece of evidence, this breakthrough, was their ticket to doing just that. With renewed vigor, the investigators followed this fresh lead, hoping it would lead them to the truth. The evidence pointed towards an unexpected suspect, someone the town would have never suspected. Imagine a small town where everyone knows everyone, a place where secrets are difficult to keep and anonymity is a far-fetched dream. Now imagine the shockwaves that ripple through this close-knit community when the finger of suspicion points to one of their own. The suspect in question was none other than the town's beloved football coach, a man named Jack Thompson. Jack was a pillar of the community, a beacon of hope for the young and old alike. He was known for his passion for football, his dedication to the team, and his ever-present smile. Jack was not just a coach, he was a mentor, a friend, and a role model to many. But now, this very man was at the heart of a chilling crime. Jack's connection to the victim was not immediately apparent. The victim, Lily, was a quiet, unassuming woman with a love for painting and a penchant for solitude. She was not part of the football community, and her interactions with Jack were limited to the occasional friendly nod at the local grocery store. As the news of Jack's suspected involvement broke, the town was in disbelief. Jack, with his boisterous laughter and his kind heart, a suspect? It was unthinkable. All around, people were grappling with this unimaginable reality, trying to reconcile the man they knew with the chilling accusations against him. Yet, as the initial shock subsided, whispers began to circulate. Whispers of a secret relationship between Jack and Lily, of late-night meetings, and of a love that was kept hidden from the world. These rumors, though unverified, added fuel to the growing fire of suspicion, casting a dark shadow over Jack's reputation. The town was in shock. The jovial football coach, the embodiment of their community spirit, was now the prime suspect in a heinous crime, but as they say, every story has two sides, and this one was no different. The town was in shock, but the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Under the weight of evidence and intense scrutiny, the suspect finally cracked. The walls of the interrogation room had borne witness to countless stories over the years, but this confession carried a weight that was palpable. After hours of denial, the suspect's facade began to crumble, and the truth slowly began to seep out. The confession was not a dramatic outburst, but rather a quiet admission of guilt. The suspect's voice, once filled with feigned ignorance, was now laced with resignation and regret. The motive was as chilling as it was senseless. A twisted perception of reality, fueled by jealousy and resentment, had led the suspect down a dark path. His actions were not a result of a momentary lapse of judgment, but a calculated series of events driven by a deep-seated malice. This was not a crime of passion, but a crime meticulously planned and executed with cold precision. The evidence, once puzzling pieces of a complex puzzle, now fell into place. The suspicious phone calls, the unexplained absences, the seemingly random pieces of evidence found at the crime scene, all of it tied back to the suspect. The confession was like the final piece of a jigsaw puzzle, bringing the horrifying picture into sharp focus. The impact of the confession on the community was profound. The realization that such a heinous crime had been committed by one of their own sent shockwaves through the town. Neighbors turned into strangers overnight, and trust became a luxury that few could afford. The confession not only solved the crime, but also shattered the illusion of safety that the community had so dearly clung to. Yet, amidst the chaos and confusion, there was also a sense of relief. The confession brought closure to a case that had been a source of fear and speculation for weeks. The suspect's admission of guilt marked the end of a chapter that had been filled with uncertainty and dread. With the confession, the once baffling case was now chillingly clear. The aftermath of the crime left the town forever changed, its tranquility replaced with a haunting memory. This was not just a crime against an individual, but an assault on the very fabric of the community. A town once known for its peaceful charm and close-knit neighbors, the impact was profound, resonating through each household, each family, each soul. Parents held their children a little tighter, neighbors looked at each other a little differently. Trust, once freely given, had become a commodity hard to come by. The town's innocence, once its defining characteristic, was lost in the blink of an eye. Yet amidst the grief and disbelief, the town began to band together. The crime, as horrific as it was, ignited a spirit of unity and resilience within the community. People began to realize that while they couldn't change what had happened, they could control how they responded to it. They refused to let the crime define them. Instead, they chose to define themselves. They chose to be a town of strength, of unity, of resilience. They chose to stand together, to support one another, to heal together. They began to form neighborhood watch groups, community support networks, and counseling centers. They created memorials not just to remember the victim, but to remind themselves of their collective strength and resolve. The residents started to open up, sharing their fears, their grief, their hopes. Conversations that were once about weather and local sports now revolved around healing and hope. The town's narrative was changing, from one of victimhood to one of survival and resilience. And so the town began to heal. It was a slow process, filled with pain and heartache, but also with love and support. The town found strength in its unity, solace in its shared grief, and hope in its collective resilience. In the midst of the horror, the town discovered its true character. It was more than just a collection of houses and people. It was a community, a family, bound by shared experiences and a shared resolve to rise above the tragedy. In the face of unimaginable tragedy, the town found a way to heal and remember. Justice served, a community healing, but a memory that lingers on. In the whirlwind of events that unfolded, the suspect was convicted, a testament to the relentless pursuit of justice. The investigation was meticulous, the breakthroughs pivotal, the confession chilling. The crime, forever etched in the town's history, left an indelible mark on its residents. The journey towards healing was not swift nor easy. It was a path paved with resilience, unity, and the unyielding spirit of a community that refused to be defined by a single act of darkness. The town found its strength, not in forgetting, but in remembering, in learning, and in growing from the tragedy. In the face of adversity, the community stood firm, a beacon of hope shining through the darkest of times. And though the memory of the crime lingers, it serves as a stark reminder. In the end, the story serves as a chilling reminder that even in the quietest towns, darkness can lurk just beneath the surface.